Hello, everyone. This is Victor Dominguez, Interim Managing Director of Business Performance USA. Thank you for joining us today on this webinar, Social Media Strategies for LinkedIn Success. Business Performance USA is a nonprofit organization, national and going global. We're here to help small businesses and professionals develop their career through people performance, process improvement, and performance management. We share with you today the same processes, practices that we use in our consulting work, and we do so freely because we simply think that we want to give back to this world and help businesses grow and prosper. So thank you for joining us. This webinar is being recorded, and it will be available later on businessperformanceusa.org. I want to take a moment here to introduce our stellar guest today, presenter Kenna Lewis. Kenna is remarkable, and we know that because she helps us tremendously in our work here. So we want to thank her today. I'm going to tell you a little briefly about Kenna. Kenna is known, and I love this phrase, as a sassy business socialista. Kenna Lewis assists organizations in understanding what their social media strategy should be, what platforms to be used, and what results should be expected. She assists her clients in developing strategy, consistency, and accountability while developing relationships with stakeholders in their targeted market. Kenna has over 25 years in corporate America. Bless her, she's clearly a survivor. She's done so in the Fortune 500 companies, and is also the founder of the Leadership Institute of Greater Kansas City, which teaches leadership, soft skills to employees, executives, and business owners. Her information has been shared by Carol Roth on MSNBC and was selected one of the 12 international business coaches by John Assaraf. Kenna was recently selected to be the social media expert for Business Performance USA. Hence, we know that she does a really good job, and we appreciate her tremendously. We do want to make this hour worth your time, and we have a lot of information to cover because we do like to teach, and we like you to have processes and steps you can take today to start really moving your organization forward. So feel free to ask questions via the question user interface or the chat user interface. I'm monitoring both of those. And if you have a question afterwards or follow-up, you can email me, victor@businessperformanceusa.org. And like I said, this will be online later. Best way to view it online is to become a member. You can go to our homepage, click on the button you see there with the bee, the worker bee. Sign up. It's all free, and we have over 30 webinars for you to review and watch and learn and share with your colleagues, because we're all about changing culture and mindset to really help people develop their talent and make businesses more prosperous and, frankly, just funner places to work. So without further ado, I'm going to move into this. Just one quick thought I want to add before I turn this over to Kenna. And we're going to be talking about what to do on LinkedIn, but we also want you to think about why to do things. What we've had success with Business Performance USA is finding other people that have like-minded principles and values that we want to share with and collaborate with, and together we can change organizations. And that's the biggest key that I use LinkedIn for. And I also want you to perhaps rethink what your notions of selling. Anybody who wants to advance their career or business is in the business of selling. You need to sell ideas, you need to sell your values, and you need to make people help people experience what you're all about. So that's the kind of mindset today. And I'm going to turn this over to Kenna Lewis. Kenna, you should be getting a pop-up, and you can take it away as soon as I unmute you. There you go.
Thank you, Victor. I totally agree with what you said, and I think it is important that we learn the different ways through social media that we can sell our businesses and sell ourselves. And LinkedIn is one of the key ways to do that, and often very underutilized in really letting yourself shine as a brand, and each of us are a brand. When I talk about social media, I usually start by looking at numbers, because I think it is important to understand how many people are looking and utilizing social media. We know Facebook is huge and that there are 42 million business pages. But we also understand that Facebook is going to a pay-to-play platform, meaning that on your business pages you've seen the number of people that have seen your posts greatly reduced. It averages between 2 to 10%. And there's information out there that says by the end of 2014, beginning of 2015, that reach could go down to 0. So anything that you want people to see, you may have to pay to do that. So it becomes very important for you to have other platforms in place that you're utilizing and getting the most out of.
Kenna?
Yes?
I need to jump in. I need to confirm that your screen is showing. I'm looking that we're waiting to view your screen.
Oh.
So is there a share my screen button?
Sure. Do you see it now?
There it is.
Okay.
Thanks,
Sorry.
Kenna.
No problem.
All good.
Nice pick up on that. So let me go back to full screen so you can see it.
Just volunteers. I'm the man behind the curtain chasing the little photo dog. So.
Thank you, Wizard.
That's back
so
to
anyway,
Kenna.
thanks. With 42 million pages, and again, Facebook going down to 0, it does become important for you to look at the other platforms, and so you can take a look at the numbers here. LinkedIn obviously has 238 million users, and they're now saying that 2 people are adding platforms every second. So that means there's going to be some huge growth in the LinkedIn platform. And if you take a look at Twitter, which is huge with 550 million users with 215 million active, and Pinterest with 70 million users, you can see through the numbers that all these platforms are growing. Now, YouTube has trended down, but that's only in the number of views per day. So why LinkedIn? Well, they did a survey of the top sellers on LinkedIn, and 89, almost 90%, came back and said they view LinkedIn as one of the most essential social media platforms. 51% said they used the paid version. Now, for those of you who know me and those of you who don't, I am very, very much a part of wanting people to save as much money as possible, businesses and that. So I've never really recommended the paid version of LinkedIn because there's so much you can do on the unpaid amount. I will say they have changed something recently in that you can't connect to third-party connections unless you're a paid member. So I may have to change my stance on that, unfortunately. I don't want to. I don't pay yet, but I'll have to wait and see what changes come with LinkedIn. But 51% currently use the paid version of those people who do a tremendous amount of selling on LinkedIn. Most of those people would rate their profile as well done, 41%. And the one that really startles people is that people use it for 6+ hours a week. That's almost 70%. I had a gentleman who I knew who was laid off from a big corporation, and he went and built his own business. He spent an hour every day, 7 days a week on LinkedIn to look for potential clients and mine information. And so that was key to his success. So the 6+ hours a week might surprise you, but for other people that really use LinkedIn, they'll spend even more. Create target prospect lists. You could do that. You can, 80% of the people do that, and we're going to show you a way to do that. You can gain insight. Now, how many of you go out for a cup of coffee or meet for somebody for lunch and go look at their LinkedIn profile before you meet them? Especially if you don't know them, that's a good place to gather information. Now, I'll tell you that when I do that, I tend to look at everybody's social media platform. And yes, I sometimes judge based on what I see or what I don't see. So people are looking at that. So it's important for you, just as in anything, to put your best foot forward. And you're going to do that through what we're going to teach you today to make your LinkedIn profile shine. Other people use it for competitive intelligence. It's a great data mining tool. And you can do research on your competitors. You can do research on your potential clients. So again, we're going to show you how you can do that through LinkedIn. Why LinkedIn? Well, you can share relevant content. I will talk over and over, and if you listen to my other webinars, that engagement is a critical piece to social media. I know there are a lot of people who will go and use Hootsuite or other ways to just mass deliver content, and then they never go back to follow up to see if somebody's responded or retweeted or liked something. That's gold. So you need to make sure that you have engagement. You go back and check on your posts because you need to build relationships. Yes, social media is a networking numbers game, but if you're not being engaging, you're not building relationships, and that's going to be critical to your success. You can showcase your personal expertise and participate in groups. Now, over 50% of the LinkedIn champions, if you will, are in over 30-plus groups. And I know that sounds kind of mind-boggling, but it's not, and it can be a very effective strategy for you. You want to build a network. You can connect with your customers, you can get introduced, and get referrals. So we're going to talk now about LinkedIn, and I've built this into 6 weeks because I think that if you try to do all of this in 1 week, you're going to be overwhelmed. And so it's important that through 6 weeks, if you get there, you get in the habit of going to LinkedIn 3 times a week, daily, then it's a better habit formed over 6 weeks. So that's why I've kind of put it into that perspective for you. Now, I'm taking this from a person who might not have LinkedIn, so bear with me if you already have a profile, but for week 1, and you can even go back and look at it like you've never had one, you need to set up your profile. So you need to get on LinkedIn, put in your email, and start from scratch. The first thing I really recommend you doing is make sure your personal LinkedIn URL is, you have personalized that. If you look at the first one where it says linkedin.com, John Doe with a bunch of numbers, that's what LinkedIn will give you when you sign up for a profile. It doesn't look as professional as, say, the ones below. You can use your name, you can use your occupation, you can use a combination. Now in this one, Fearless Jeff was a coach, and that's what he wanted to go by. That's also, I believe, his Twitter handle. So he changed his to /Fearless Jeff. Another gentleman who was really about business coaching and consulting, who really wanted to try to help businesses succeed, changed his to Jim Success Dorky. A lot of people will put this on their business cards, so you want to make sure it's personalized to who you are and what you do. Now, the other thing that is huge is for you to use keywords in your title, not your actual title. This is prime real estate, and for you to use keywords, and you're going to hear that a lot throughout this presentation, use it in your title. So if you looked at mine, it'll say business coach, leadership, social media. I have Craving Talk Radio, so it's an internet radio station. You'll see those things that I do that I want to stress in my title. You'll never see owner, president, or that, because people are going to search keywords. So you want to have as many keywords throughout your profile, and also it gives them quickly, especially if your business may not be something that's easily described by a title, an idea of what you do for them to go and continue looking at your profile. So really important to change that because, again, prime real estate, don't waste it by putting your title. Now, if you have any questions, Victor, are you just going to holler at me?
Yeah, I am. I'm holding back a little bit because I know there's a lot of content to follow.
Okay.
One interesting comment was for one individual, LinkedIn was the most disappointing social media channel that they've experienced so far. And that's going to be some people's opinions. This individual is not wrong if that's their experience, but we like people to challenge us and ask us questions. Say, so hold us to the fire and keep asking questions, folks. Thank you.
Absolutely, and I can understand that. I think that too. Sometimes people don't know how to work it, and maybe you've worked it and not gotten anything out of it. I love Twitter. I have done $20,000 deal for somebody through Twitter. I've gotten clients through Twitter. I think it's a very fun, easy platform to do. So that's kind of probably my favorite. But I think LinkedIn, if worked correctly, and I'd love to have a discussion with you. So if you send your information to Victor, we can talk about that because I would like to do that. So week one, again, you can import a resume if it's a brand new profile. Now, I've done that with a couple clients, and it was pretty wacky. So I think it's better to cut and paste if you're going to do that. Supposedly makes life easy, but again, there was work that had to be done in reformatting and only English and French are allowed to do that with. Put your most recent jobs in week one into the experience section of your profile. Complete the education section. Now, try to keep years out of it as much as you can. If for both young and old, I've worked with people who have been laid off and they've been older, and you don't want people focusing on how old you are before they see how good you are. So try to take the years off as much as possible. And that's just one of my things that I recommend. And add a high quality photo that really reflects who you are. Don't make them cheesy, but put something on, even if it's a logo. If somebody tries to connect with me and they don't have a picture, that usually tells me that they might be a potential spammer. So then I do go look at their profile, and if there's nothing in it, I will not connect with them. But the key for me a lot of times will be the picture. It's kind of like Twitter and the egg. Nobody follows the egg, which is where you put your picture on Twitter. So it is important to have that and to have a nice one. But I have seen logos work. There was a gentleman that tried to connect with me, and he was shirtless. I didn't connect with him.
That's a good idea. That's a tip right there. Kenna, I've heard it said that sometimes women are cautious to put their face picture up there, and I can understand that. So I think the solution for the logo is good. But what are your thoughts? I mean, the stalker aspect.
I don't put my phone number. I know a lot of people do. I don't have my phone number on my LinkedIn profile. And, some people think that's silly. For me, it's just not. I've never had an issue with that. Granted, my profile picture is the caricature that you saw at the beginning of this presentation. So, if people are going to stalk you, there are a lot of other platforms that they can do that much more easily if you're on than LinkedIn. The worst I think you could potentially get is spam in your email if you put your email. So that's just my view. In week two, you're going to complete the experience section, which is going to help you potentially reconnect from colleagues from your past. Remember, referrals, as in anything, are very valuable. So you're going to want to refer and put as much information about yourself into the different sections as you can. One of the things that I love doing is put a link to your company website on your profile. If you go into Edit Profile, and you can change your websites. When you take a look at Other, if you don't hit Other, it'll say My Company Website. Again, this is a great way to describe what you do. So what I did is hit Other, and then instead of seeing my website or company website, I have Leadership and Business Growth, Social Media Success, Radio Podcast for Success. If you hit that, then it'll take you to my website. But again, instead of just saying boring company website, I try to let people know what the expectation is or what I do. Also in week 2, write a killer 120-word marketing headline that includes important keywords such as primary services and skills. Now, again, there's a little bit of marketing in this, and the more you can stand out, the more people are going to respond to that. Identify what you offer and what makes you stellar. You know, I just threw some stuff up. You generate $1 million in revenue in 6 months by helping businesses be more successful. That would be a great headline. I could say BP USA calls me their #1 social media expert. That's another great headline. So think about what you do, and you are good. I know sometimes people got nervous about tooting their own horn. There is a way to toot it and be professional and get your word out. If people reject it, you're never going to know that, so don't worry about it. I mean, if they're like, oh, that person's really, you know, egotistical, you're not ever going to know if somebody sees your profile and thinks that. Most people are going to respond to success, and that's what you need to show on your profile and in your key headline. So how would you promote you? Why would they call you? Those are things to think about when you put your headline together. Now let's say you're in a big business or you have a business, and all of a sudden now you want to take one part of that business and really expand it. That may be the headline you change to. So now you're talking about one product or one part of the business that you're trying to grow. And it's another good way to kind of test things and see what gets response and change it around, because usually every time you change something, people get notified that you made a change. I know there have been times I haven't changed anything and somebody will call and say, I heard you got a new job, LinkedIn told me that. Well, no, I really haven't. But LinkedIn is really good if I've made a change in the profile, letting people know that you've done that. Now, join 5 groups. Join industry groups, alumni associations. If you're Greek, go to your fraternity or sorority, join those. Your chambers, regional networking groups. Groups are very important. You can get referrals, but you've got to be in the group, you've got to go to the group, and you've got to be active, and it has to be an active group. Sometimes I've been in groups and I'm like, I go after a month and there's just nothing going on, or I go to join a group and I've joined and I see there's been no activity for 6 months, then I get out and join another group. So that's something to look at, because you obviously want groups that are vibrant and people are talking and corresponding.
Kenna, I'm going to jump in for a second.
Okay.
I'm trying not to interrupt you, but we do have some good questions. One question is, how do you keep the years out of your profile? This individual hasn't been able to figure that out.
Okay. Have you tried Googling? You know, it's hard right now because I can't get back to LinkedIn to do it. Why don't you write that down, and I will put that down as a question with an email,
and again,
I will give them a email back.
Perfect. We're channeling emails to me just so that
Sure.
I can, you know, manage the process for Kenna. She's generous with her time, and I want to be fair to her. Victor@businessperformanceusa.org. Email me, and we'll get your questions answered. Got another one, Kenna, real fast. You, quote, you mentioned not including jobs for years. I've heard it's important to include as folks, meaning recruiters, consulting opportunities, want to see how long you've been at a job to see your length of experience.
Right.
So it's a dichotomy there. Your thoughts?
I agree. You don't want to see like that you've been jumping around. I tend to avoid it mainly on my education. I mean, obviously you're going to put January 2013. I just left a group that I did some coaching with, and so it'll now show that I quit in March of this year. Those things, yes, and I'm not sure you can even change because it's going to be present now. Where I really want you to avoid your years is going to be in your education, because that's really going to tell people a lot of times your age.
Okay, there you go.
especially if you're older.
And
that's what I'm trying to avoid. But yeah, you can put, that could be me too. The experience section. Oh, well, week 2 begins your marketing push. Joining LinkedIn groups, meet people with similar interests. Again, go into those groups, most of them will say, please introduce yourself, so do it. Tell them what you do, tell them what you're looking for. One of the things that I think people always kind of leave it at the door is, how can I help you? Or here's what I'm looking for. So if I'm looking for a certain kind of client, or if I'm looking for a certain kind of person to interact with in some of those introductions, I may do that. The experience section. Use keywords, again, that are specific to your business, brand, products, or service. Engineering, trainer, surgeon, whatever. So again, if somebody's, Googling or whatever, keywords are important. People do searches in, and we're going to show you how to do a search, in LinkedIn. So you want those keywords that people would search for to show up in your profile. Company section, be engaging in your description. Again, repeat crucial keywords. And now they've done it so you can add, remove, and rearrange entire sections of your profile on LinkedIn. You weren't able to do that before, but now you can. So that's one of the good things that LinkedIn has changed recently. Week 3, review the people you may know section and send invitations to anyone you know and trust. I think starting out, or if you have few connections, this is a way to go. I tell all the people I work with, I want them at least at 501 connections, because it'll say 500 plus. You never get to see how many people you're really connected to, but people do look to see how well you're connected at times. So I really kind of try to get people to get in that connection mode, because again, numbers are important, and so get that 501 connections. Send a message to a professional you respect and know, and ask them to write a detailed record. Yes?
Just a quick caveat to that. It can slice both ways. I tend to want to have people in my network, and anyone on this call is welcome to join my network on LinkedIn. But I need to know the person. If I don't know the person, I will write to them if it's just a cold request and say, great, love to have you in my network. Tell me about yourself. How can I help you? What is it you do? And it's remarkable how seldom I actually get a response from that. So if you're going to be in my network, you need to engage me with at least initial dialogue. So when I see your name and profile, I know who you are, and I know what you're about, and I know how I may be able to help you and assist you. And so it's a catch-22. You want the numbers, but you want quality also.
Well, and I do know I'm one of the people that as long as you don't look spammy, I will connect with you whether I know you or not. And the reason for that is there are a lot of people that you're trying to get your word out to. And I've had experiences where I didn't know the person, but they'll see one of my the things that I put up for, here's like this webinar. And they may not want to come to this webinar, but they'll tell somebody else about it, and that person came to the webinar. I've also had a gentleman that I didn't know that I said okay to for a connection who's from India. Now, he's invited me to speak. He sent me chapters of his book to review, and we've had this great relationship, and I never would have had that had I been picky and said, if I don't know you, I won't connect. There are things I look for to make sure I don't think they're spammers, and I'm pretty good at that, and maybe that takes some time, but if those are probably the only people that I don't connect with, so yes, I'll connect with you as well too. I do know people that have said, even on their LinkedIn profile, everybody I'm connected to, I fully endorse. That's great. So it depends on the way you want to play that. The gentleman who does the full endorsement, he's sold a couple of businesses, he's retired, very wealthy, so for him, he doesn't need the connections that he would have 20 years ago. So I do think that plays into it somewhat. So it just depends on how you're comfortable. Again, I've got close to 2,000 connections. Still, there are people with many, many more. And I've never had an issue with anybody I've connected to. So
Good.
I've
Thank
gotten
you.
a lot of great information from them. Write a recommendation, ask for a detailed recommendation, and then write a recommendation for someone else. And do a company search on a competitor or potential client. Here's where you can do some data mining. Find out what's going on with your competitors. Find out what's going on with potential clients, their businesses. I've had people who, and I've written to them saying, I would love to meet you for coffee because I've loved your content. This post especially was something that I reacted to, and I would just love to meet you for coffee and talk. Now, sometimes I've gotten business out of that, sometimes I haven't, but at least I've made a deeper connection now. Do an advanced people search. This is a more targeted search to find customers, competition, and experts. Use the important keywords for your business or industry in the region you serve. See who comes up. See if you know any of them. Send invitations to those you know and respect, or if you don't know and respect them, make sure, kind of like Victor said, send an invitation to them and tell them why you want to connect with them. Don't just use the standard, I want to connect with you on LinkedIn. Send an invitation to others whose expertise and interests dovetail with yours. Now, what's the worst thing to happen is nothing, but don't let that stop you, because sometimes in any social media, it takes time and consistency and accountability. So week 3, still join 5 more groups. Post a status update that showcases your experience. This is big. I look in status updates sometimes for people who are posting that they're busy. And if you're busy, doesn't always mean, but generally means you're successful or you're trying really hard. So I think that's important, and that's why status updates can do that. I've done a status update where I said, what a great day, had 5 meetings, loved meeting so-and-so with XYZ Corporation, or loved just meeting with XYZ Corporation. I've given a shout out to that corporation, but I've told people I've been busy that day. And believe it or not, I had a call that said, wow, you are so busy. Do you have time to talk to me? Yes, absolutely I do. Well, and I got a client out of it. And it was just because they saw I was busy, therefore in their mind, I was somebody to talk to. So make sure you use that. Again, it was a shout out. It wasn't tooting my own horn, but at the same time, it was in a way. But you can mention big deals at your company, anniversaries. You've just sold your 1,000th client. Whatever that is, you can put status updates around that. Provide a useful web link. If you find a great article, I have a gentleman that I'm working with who's a brand new chiropractor, and you know, he does a great job of providing content, and we're now working on him to do more selling to get people in the door with specials and that. But he provides a lot of great content, and he's getting people on, especially on his Facebook page, because he consistently does that. And he shows that he cares about their health. So just something to think about as you're looking at content. It doesn't have to be just stuff from your blog. Trustworthy personal recommendations are powerful. I have worked with companies that are hiring people, and believe me, they go look at your social media. So if you're somebody who tweets anything and everything before you think, or you do that on your personal Facebook page, make it private. Granted, people don't do that as much on LinkedIn, but people will go look at LinkedIn to see if you've been recommended and how many people have endorsed you. So that is important to create that. People are wanting to hear from you, so talk to them. I have a young gentleman who's pretty fresh out of college, and you know, he friended me and said, you know, I'm just trying to understand how people became successful or how people started their businesses. Can we meet for coffee? And we did, and he was delightful. And so he reached out to me the other day and said, I see you are connected to so-and-so. I would love to meet so-and-so. Can you make that connection? I'll buy lunch and we can all go out. Well, absolutely. But he was able to do that by taking a look at my contacts, having met me first, and I'm going to open the door for him because after that meeting I thought he was really cool, and I want to help him succeed. So there's power in LinkedIn if used well. Week 4. I know we're kind of on time. So add 2 more links to your website sections, area of interest, so you can put your company website up. Then you can put your blog page up if you want, if you only have one company website. Put your blog page up. You can put your marketplace up. So add those so people can go hit, and again, use that real estate to tell them what they're going to go hit. But really important to add different things besides just your website. Add any specialty classes or technical industry training to your education section. I had a stint that I worked for or got approved by the Department of Labor to go do classes in Kansas. So that's something I put on my page. So if you've got, obviously people, if they have professional programming, management, accreditation, or any of those, you're going to put those on. But think about other things that you've spent time and money on to be trained on. Put that under your section. You never know what will happen with that, and it's important to see for people to see that you're growing and learning and doing more. Write another recommendation for someone in your network, join 5 more groups, and do another company search for a competitor or a target organization. Perform another advanced people search to uncover more valuable contacts that you'll add. Request a recommendation from a professional you know and trust. And draft the text for your summary section and polish it before pasting it in week 4. There's 2,000 characters. Use them all. If marketing or writing is not something that you feel you do well, this might be something that you actually have somebody else do for you, or at least look at it before you post it. Because you want to make sure this is the summary of everything you do and who you are. Post another status update. Add volunteer experience to your current experience section. This is huge because it tells people what you're interested in and what you value. I was on the board of Kansas City Ballet and the Kansas City Chamber Orchestra here, and I have gotten connections for people to say, oh, I see you love the ballet. Or I had somebody else that wanted me to be on a committee once to help arts in Kansas City. And they got that from my section on LinkedIn. So just as you would put that possibly on your resume if you're on boards and stuff like that, make sure, if you volunteer for a volunteer organization, put that up because people see what you value and where your interests lie. And it's kind of what Victor said. You are a brand. You're brilliant. Show your brilliance. And you can do this on LinkedIn in a way that sometimes you can on the other platforms because you do have more space and more characters to show that. So shine. People can see who you are, and you are special, so make sure you tell that story through LinkedIn. In week 5, write a recommendation for someone in your network, join 5 more groups, request a recommendation, again, from someone you trust, and you get to review these before they go up on the recommendation. So if somebody says something you don't like, you can either have them change it or you don't have to put it up. Add the skills section to your profile and import contacts from your personal database and connect with classmates. Now I will tell you I didn't do this. You can, just because of the people I had in my contacts on Gmail and stuff like that are not necessarily people I wanted to connect with. Some people do that. I tend to export my contacts from LinkedIn for different things, but I didn't import, but you can. So if you have a database that's all professional contacts, you can import those into LinkedIn. Week 5, post another status update, and you'll see that LinkedIn, excuse me, I'm going to take a quick sip of water, created a skill set for you based on the text in your profile. Now, you can have 50 specific skills, and you can change them. Most people don't realize that. I would, since I was in the telephone industry for a long time, I would get crazy ones that I understood PCS phones. Yeah, I didn't. So, I was like, why would anybody say that, for one? But it's because they shot it up there, LinkedIn did, as a potential skill set because I was in the telecommunications industry. So what I've gone and done is erased all those that I don't do and made sure that the 50 that are up there now that you can possibly endorse me from are all ones that fit what I do. So you get 50, don't be shy, and make sure they reflect what you want them to reflect. Now, my number one skill showing up is going to be organizational management or organizational development. I did that for years, and I still do that some in my coaching practice, that I'll work with businesses to help them in that. So that may be my number one skill. I'm not even sure, because social media is in that, because so many people are still endorsing me for my 25 years of corporate work, but it's coming up to the top. So again, make sure your 50 reflect what you do. In week 6, write a recommendation letter for someone in your network, join 5 more groups. From your marketing materials, if you have videos, if you have a PDF, a presentation, you can now link it in the professional gallery underneath your profile. So it's a multimedia section. It's great. You can build your own portfolio now in LinkedIn. They didn't have this for a while, and so this is something new that is also great. So if you have those, you can put them in LinkedIn. Now, for those that are PC-based, I've not played with this. I've heard a couple people have done it, and they liked it. The Outlook Social Connector. It's a tool that integrates with Microsoft Outlook and allows you to perform tasks so you can email somebody a connection directly. I don't have that, so I can't really speak from experience, but I know a couple people who have used it. Ask for an introduction from one of your connections using the LinkedIn introduction feature. Post a status update, and again, that's just kind of a repeat on posting video. So now what to expect. You've done a 6-week plan. You've been consistent. One of the things, again, I try to build is consistency and accountability. Say you're going to work every week. And I know this has been a lot. What I would recommend is what Victor said. If you want, go view this webinar again from the Business Performance USA when it gets posted, and have your LinkedIn up. So maybe on week 1, you go through the steps on, listen to the webinar, go through the steps for week 1, and then actually do it on your LinkedIn. And then when week 2 rolls around, go back and do the same thing so you can actually do it with your LinkedIn there. Because I know this is a lot of information, and without LinkedIn showing, it may be hard to understand it and visualize it. So that would be a good way to do it. So after 6 weeks, people should find you, because your keywords are there, your information is there, and now you've also made new connections. You've looked and found, you've data mined information about your industry and about potential clients. Now, the 90-10 rule, and I'll talk about it again, works here. Make sure you're not tooting your horn the whole time. Find creative ways to showcase your expertise without saying, look at me all the time. Your profile, if done correctly, is going to be look at me in a very professional way. But make sure that when you do your status updates that you're not always look at me. So it's not advertising, so you're still showing off though, so just don't be gimmicky or, that used car salesman type of feel. So additional help. On those saved searches that we've done, you can actually save 10 of them in 3 people searches. And that way you can see what's updated. For people looking for a job, this is great. So you can go look for, you can save job searches with certain things, and they'll email you too if new members or networks come up within that link, that search that you have. But still, it's something that you can save so you don't have to recreate it each time, which is a nice feature that they've added. Now, business pages. I'm going to talk briefly about that because huge changes are coming, and they're coming April 14th. So if you've set up your business page on LinkedIn, there has been a page called the Product and Service page. And it's been a wonderful page because it's almost, you could build like a mini website out of it, and that's maybe took too much bandwidth. But anyway, it's going away April 14th. So if you have recommendations from people on those pages, they're gone. LinkedIn has said you can write them and they'll send them to you, but I don't know if I trust that. I mean, obviously it depends on amount of time and who knows. So copy the info and keep it so that you have it. You can put it on your web page as a testimonial. You know, I would check with the people to make sure that that's okay since you're doing that, but just copy the information before it goes away on April 14th. LinkedIn is recommending now you use showcase pages and company updates as the alternative for sharing content. But showcase pages only give you 200 characters, and so that's the bad part of this, to describe your products and services. And there's going to be a limit of 10 showcase pages per parent company page. So what this comes down to is it's going to feel a lot like Facebook, which doesn't make me happy. So static content is gone for the most part, so it's going to be important now for you to post if you have a business page. Every day would be good, but you need to at least do that 3 times a week. Remember the 90-10 rule. 90% of your posts should be useful and relevant to the users, and 10% should be about upcoming events or specials. Now, if you have a large upcoming event, I do think that ratio changes as you get closer to the event. You'll probably post more about it. So that 90-10 rule is normal, but when something big is going to happen, obviously you're going to post more, and regarding that, so that 90-10% will change. Promote links to your website and blog. Again, you want to get people to go visit your website. You want that traffic. The number one, right now Pinterest is drawing more traffic to websites than any of the social media platforms. It's amazing the web traffic that comes from that. So you don't have as much of that coming on LinkedIn, but I think part of that is because now people haven't really pushed that. So now with your business page, you may be doing that more because you want people to go see more detail that you're going to be able to give on your business page. So make sure that you have great articles with a picture. If you want to put a special up, that's okay. If you have a landing page for a product, you can now do that. So these are things that you're changing on your business page, but again, there are ways to do it to still get traffic to your website. And put recommendations, as I mentioned, from your products and services page now on your website. This is kind of my last slide. When I talk social media, and even LinkedIn, and I know this was a pretty fast-paced one, think about the people and not the technology. It is about engagement, and it is about building relationships. I have built relationships in strange ways, so don't discount it. I love soccer. I'm a big supporter of Sporting Kansas City. I will tweet during sporting games if I'm watching at home, if I'm not out at the park, and I have gotten invited into the Sporting Kansas City chat room. I have gotten a couple of clients at different times just by being there and just because we have the same interest. So it's about relationships, and if that's the one thing that I think people tend to forget about in social media as they just want to just kind of vomit stuff out, that's not how you build relationships. Respond. I got a person in Forbes online just because I didn't know the person was a Forbes writer, but he asked a question and I had a response, and it was relationships are important in social media. He took that and ran with it, and that client is now in Forbes online forever. So it is just, people want that connection. So it's important whether it's LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, whatever, try to build relationships and try to be engaging. That's really it. You got any more questions? Victor?
Yes, Cynthia, I do, and thank you. That was really helpful, and I've got some work to do myself later this evening on my own LinkedIn page. I do have a question. You've covered it, but I just want to make sure we loop back. The question, they note that you were addressing this, but should a profile be different from a resume? And do you view them as complementary? Go ahead.
They are complementary, but the nice thing about you can kind of showcase it a little more powerfully in LinkedIn than you can on a resume. Because a resume can be pretty boring. You know, it doesn't really, it does tell who you are, and yet it doesn't. So saying that you're the #1 expert in something, you might not put that on your resume, but if somebody selected you as that, you could put that on LinkedIn. So you can toot your horn in a different way from a more marketing strategy than you can on a professional resume. But they are similar somewhat.
Right. I think that's fair, Kenna. I look at a resume as, first of all, it's chronological. Mm-hmm. And that pigeonholes us to telling a story in a certain way. And I think the profile is a better storytelling opportunity.
Yeah, I agree.
The way I think of it, I know HR people hate, by the way, a different type of resume. I can't recall what it was, but they want that the chronology of what you've done when you've done it. I look at this in a slightly different way. I look at skills and experience. Skills, you can substitute the word knowledge. You know how to do something, and professors know how to do things too. It doesn't mean they necessarily have the experience of doing it. And so knowledge to me is having the understanding. Experience is knowing how to connect the dots. And you want your storytelling on LinkedIn to show how you connect dots. And even if you, so you want to talk about how your experience has affected people and organizations in the positive. You can do the classic scenario, tell about a situation, tell about the obstacles, tell about the actions that you took, and tell about the results or the benefits and how you changed things. So that's where that should start to come out in your profile, and you're not going to be able to tell that in a resume.
I had he was a senior in college, but he actually took some of my leadership classes, and he was graduating out of Vanderbilt. And he went into an interview, and the person interviewing said, "I saw on your LinkedIn," he didn't have it on his resume, that you took leadership classes, because he said he had a certification or whatever in leadership, blah, blah, blah. And he said it was fascinating because he had done a stint in England on economics and the leadership classes, and they talked more about that than his major, than his time at Vanderbilt. So it was fascinating, and they also pulled that from LinkedIn. So, he said he called and he told me that experience and said, "Oh, by the way, it's now on my resume." So you can put things on LinkedIn, that you don't think about putting necessarily on your resume.
Yeah, exactly. Cynthia, by the way, I just stole back the screen view. And
it's Kenna.
I'm sorry. I'm automatically.
I just don't want to confuse them.
I'm usually doing these with Cynthia Stewart, one of my partners. Kenna, sorry about that. But hey,
that's okay.
You're in good company. You called Cynthia.
I am.
So what you're seeing now is our wall, if you will, the membership site on BP USA. I just want to give that quick note. We are close to wrapping up. You're free to ask any additional questions or, again, follow up with me, Victor, at businessperformanceusa.org. And, Kenna, I think I just might wrap up and then give you the last word. I often think about what Simon Sinek, and you can see his videos on YouTube, just very inspirational and videos with great insight. his moniker is that people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And I really believe that's true. And you want to tell your why story on LinkedIn and find connections with people and start to change. And that's the reason you're on this webinar today, is because years ago, people like Kenna, myself, Cynthia Stewart, Jeff Stewart, Roz, Davis Grimes, our partners, connected with each other on the same principles. And we started saying, you know what? Business and work doesn't have to suck. Okay, people's talents are brilliant, and they're typically repressed within many organizations, and it doesn't have to be that way. We can make a kind of environment that we want to live and work in and thrive in by starting with one other person, and then the two of you go out and find two other people, the four of you go find 8 people. And put your values out there, what you're really interested in, and tell that story. Tell why you're engaged. And be ready to help other people. And you'll see it come back to you. And this nonprofit organization and the hundreds of people it serves, growing into the thousands, is a result of that. And not to toot our horn, I'm just saying, you can create your world too by finding people of like-minded principles. And that's what I encourage you to do. So, Kenna, I will turn that. See, I'm just programmed. I'll turn over the last word to you.
I think that's a wonderful way to put it, Victor, is that social media are different platforms in order to get who you are out. It is your story and what you're about. And I think in the hustle and bustle of life, we forget that. People on each and every one of us need to connect. We need to connect for business success, but we need to connect for personal success. And telling your story, why you're doing stuff, reaching out, I think I've met so many fabulous people. Some I've done business with and some I will never do business with. And not that that's a negative, we've become friends. And again, just, just make sure you realize that you're telling a story, but you're trying to build relationships. And when you build those relationships, it does come back to you. And Victor's right, helping somebody else out, it will come back. But social media is a great way to get your story out, but be consistent, be accountable, and shine. Don't be afraid to shine. Sometimes we all get lost in the hustle and we don't let ourselves shine. So we can do that in our businesses and be more successful and make more money.
And change our world.
Change the world.
No small ambition. Thank you, Kenna. We're going to close this out. Just one last note. Kenna mentioned a webinar on Pinterest. We've already had that webinar, but it's available for free viewing on demand on Business Performance USA. All you got to do is just sign up. We ask for very little information. And we're not here to spam you, and we're not here to market you to death. We're just here to share. So if you click on this button, you will get to the registration form. This is not it because I'm already signed in. But we're going to close out. Kenna, I can't thank you enough. You're a delightful partner, and attendance today has been through the roof, wildly, wildly successful, and that's because of you. So we thank you for that, and we're going to close out. Thank you, people. Again, get a hold of me. You're welcome. Victor at businessperformanceusa.org. Thanks, everyone.